It was a quiet Saturday morning when Pastor Amos Akini boarded a bus headed for his hometown. He had just completed a 7-day deliverance crusade in a distant rural town. Holding his Bible close to his chest, he greeted a few passengers with a gentle nod before settling into a window seat. The bus pulled out of the terminal and began its journey down the long, empty highway. 2 hours passed. As the bus neared a police checkpoint on a deserted stretch of road, tension began to rise. The driver, a young man with earbuds plugged in, kept speeding like he was chasing time. Toward the back, an elderly man suddenly sat upright, his face pale with fear. "Driver, slow down. Police checkpoint ahead," he shouted. A middle-aged man wearing a blue cap pointed forward. "Look, there's a checkpoint. This isn't a racetrack." But the driver only grinned, cocky and proud. "Let them try to stop me," he said, knocking the steering wheel like it was a drum. The bus didn't slow. It lunged forward recklessly like a wild animal let loose. Up ahead, several police officers stood with raised hands. One of them shouted, "Stop there!" But the driver roared past them, laughing. "They didn't catch me," he yelled. Some passengers clutched their heads in disbelief. "You want to kill us?" a woman cried out. "God will judge reckless drivers," a man muttered. But before anyone could react, there was a loud bang. The front right tire exploded. The steering jolted violently. The driver lost control. The bus swerved, veering from side to side, then flipped off the road into a deep ditch. Screams filled the air as the vehicle crashed through trees, struck hard, and finally burst into flames. Bodies flew from windows. Others were trapped in the burning wreckage. It was chaos. Devastating. No one was thought to have survived. But the story didn't end there. They said it could have all been avoided. If only Pastor Amos had listened. If only he had paused for a moment. But fate had already been set in motion. Pastor Amos Akini wasn't just any preacher. Across Nigeria, his name echoed with reverence. From Lagos to Kano, Port Harcourt to Ibadan. In homes, churches, even market squares, people spoke his name like it was part of prayer. "Pastor Amos prayed for my daughter. Now she walks." He laid hands on my mother. Her eyes opened. After 5 years of no child, I touched his robe. Now I have twins. He wasn't flashy. He didn't boast. But there was something about him. Something powerful yet quiet, like thunder that didn't make a sound. They said his Bible carried power. His voice, fire. He walked like a man carrying heaven within him. But one decision changed everything. Just one. It began with a phone call, a cry from a distant village. A mother in distress. A boy who had suffered for years. The air was still that day, the clouds hanging low like cotton in the sky, when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. He picked it up. "Good afternoon, sir," came a trembling voice. "Please, my son is dying." Her words were heavy, like a load pressed against her chest. "His name is Aim Cha. He's had epilepsy for 10 years. He falls, shakes, cries. We've gone to hospitals. We've seen prophets. Nothing worked." Pastor Amos said nothing at first. He closed his eyes and bowed his head in silent prayer. There was no fear, no doubt. Only peace. He placed his Bible gently on his lap and said softly, "I will come." The woman broke into tears. "Thank you, sir. May God bless you." That night, he sat alone in his small prayer room. The candle beside him flickered gently, as if listening. He wrote down the name of the village, Umuzu, a quiet place in the southeast, a place forgotten by maps, but not by the spirits. Then he rose and walked to the veranda, where his mother sat counting her rosary, whispering prayers into the night like she always did. "Mama," he said quietly, "I'm going to Umuzu tomorrow." She stopped. Her fingers froze on the beads. Her eyes locked onto his. "Where?" she asked, her voice low. There's a boy suffering from epilepsy. "I have to go," he said firmly. Her hands dropped to her side. "Amos," she whispered. "That name. I've heard it before. In a dream. A nightmare." He gave a gentle smile. "Mama," I prayed. What I felt was peace. She shook her head slowly. "Not every battle is yours to fight. Some look harmless but bite deep. I dreamt of blood. I know what that means. Don't go." He touched her hand. "As long as I carry this," he said, lifting his Bible, "nothing can touch me. The Lord is my shield." Her eyes filled with tears. "My son," she whispered, "don't go." But he only kissed her forehead and walked inside to pack. Outside, the wind picked up and somewhere in the distance, a crow called out. That night, Mama Akini didn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring at the moon as though it owed her answers. Her heart raced like war drums. The wind whistled through the trees, and the air turned heavy. Too still, too strange. She saw shapes that weren't there, felt danger creeping in like smoke beneath the door. By morning, her eyes were swollen red. When Pastor Amos stepped out, holding a small bag and his Bible, she was already outside, waiting. Her wrapper was clutched tightly against her chest. "Amos," she called, her voice trembling, "don't go." He paused. She rose slowly, like an old tree in the wind. "This battle is not yours," she said again. "Some fights were the face of a child, but they tear like lions. I saw blood, I saw fire, I saw you. You weren't moving. You were gone." He stepped closer and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Mama, you raised me with prayer. You taught me to trust God. As long as I carry this," he lifted his Bible and kissed it, "nothing can harm me. He is my shield." She closed her eyes, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Some shields still crack," she whispered. "Please don't go." He smiled faintly. "I must." She turned her face away. "Then go," she said quietly. "But don't say I didn't warn you." He bent down and hugged her. Slowly, like he was holding time itself. She clung to him as if her arms could make the day stay a little longer. Then he walked out. A crow cawed 3 times, and the gate shut behind him. The road to Umuzu had opened, but so had something else. Something dark with claws and teeth. The journey was long. The road rough. Dust rose behind the car like restless spirits. Trees bent close from both sides as if listening. Villagers stared as he passed, wondering who the stranger was. By the time he reached Umuzu, the sun was slipping away, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The air smelled of firewood and distant prayers. Emma's family waited outside. The mother's eyes were swollen, worn from too much crying. The father stood with a small stool, unsure where to place it. Children peeked from behind trees. "You're welcome, sir," the mother said, her voice shaky. "You don't know what this means to us." Pastor Amos smiled gently. "God sent me, not man." They led him inside and offered food and water, but he touched nothing. He sat quietly, holding his Bible close. "When will the prayers begin?" the father asked. "Tomorrow," Amos replied. "Let the sun rise first." That night, the sky turned black like burnt cloth. No stars. No breeze. Even the air stood still as if afraid. But the witches of Umuzu had already sensed him. In the dead of night, a strange wind crept into his room. A voice followed. "Leave now." Pastor Amos opened his eyes. "What you're trying to free has been tied with blood. You have one chance. Turn back." He looked around. Nothing. Just silence. Just shadows. Then the wind vanished as suddenly as it came. He picked up his Bible, pressed it against his chest, and lay back down. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He simply stayed. Because sometimes, silence is a reply. And some men are not afraid of darkness. Morning arrived slowly. The rooster crowed once, twice, again, like it was warning the day to tread carefully. Pastor Amos woke before the sun, wore a plain white shirt, and held his Bible close. The air felt fresh but heavy, like it was carrying a secret. The family had already gathered. Emma lay on a mat, hands bound with cloth so he wouldn't hurt himself. His eyes were wild, rolling in every direction. Foam spilled from his mouth. His mother knelt beside him whispering, "Please God, please." Pastor Amos stepped forward. "Untie him," he said calmly. They obeyed. He knelt by the boy. One hand rested on his head, the other on his chest. He closed his eyes. Then he prayed loud and fierce. His voice rose, calling on heaven like someone banging on the gates of fire. "Every spirit of darkness, come out now," he shouted. "You don't belong here." Emma screamed. His body convulsed violently, jerking like leaves caught in a storm. His limbs flailed, his mouth stretched open, then he vomited. A black stone fell out, hit the ground, and steamed like something pulled from Hell's Kitchen. Gasps filled the room. One woman fainted. Another screamed, "Jesus!" Emma's mother collapsed in tears, praising God over and over. Word spread instantly. More people came. The blind, the mad, the crippled, barren women, broken men. They all came like ants to honey. Pastor Amos prayed for each one. And one by one, miracles happened. Eyes opened. Minds returned. Legs walked. Tears flowed like rain on cracked earth. But beneath a lonely leafless tree at the edge of the village, the witches gathered. They watched him, their faces turning darker. Light had entered their forest, and it was not afraid. Umuzu had never seen such healing. Each day brought songs. Each night brought dancing. Pastor Amos moved house to house, praying, smiling, touching lives. The village changed like dry land finally tasting rain. But not everyone was pleased. Deep in the forest, where even sunlight hesitated, the witches met again. They sat in a circle, eyes glowing red like burning coal. Their voices hissed like snakes. "He is ruining everything," one said. "He's breaking bonds that took us years to seal," another added. The third, oldest of them all, nodded slowly. "Then we strike where it will hurt most. His children." They began their ritual. They summoned winds, mixed ashes with feathers, and whispered into clay pots, sending death toward his children. But the sky did not shift. Because Pastor Amos had no wife, no son, no daughter, no child anywhere. His house was empty. So the charm turned back. That very day strange things happened. The first witch's daughter screamed and tore her clothes. The second son collapsed and couldn't rise again. The third, her twin boys, went blind at once. They cried out for water. They begged for help. But there was none. The witches ran to their secret tree, beating their chests and crying out. "What have we done?" they wailed. But the answer was already clear. The fire they had sent found no target. It turned back and burned their own roofs. Still, they didn't stop. Some souls, no matter how scorched, keep reaching for more poison. One quiet evening, Pastor Amos sat outside his room, reading his Bible. The breeze brushed his face like soft fingers. But then he felt it. The air shifted. Something old had entered it. 3 shadows moved slowly through the gate. 3 women, old, their skin wrinkled, backs bent like broken branches, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. They walked with the weight of years but not with weakness. Their steps were deliberate, and they stopped directly in front of him. The one in the center stepped forward. Her voice was dry, cracking like harmattan wind. "Young man, we see your power," she said. Pastor Amos looked up, calm as a lion watching sheep. "You heal the sick. You open blind eyes. But, do you want more?" Her lips stretched into a smile, cold and sharp, the kind that hides a blade beneath it. "We can give you wealth, safety, long life, power that makes kings bow. Even the sky will answer you. Just say yes." The 2 behind her nodded, fingers weaving signs into the air. Pastor Amos stood slowly. "If it is not from God," he said, "I don't want it." One of them hissed, a harsh sound like fire under a serpent. "Proud boy," she spat. "Do you think your little prayers scare us?" The leader raised her chin. "This is your last chance," she warned. But Pastor Amos's gaze did not waver. "I bow to God," he replied. "Not snakes." Silence. Even the wind held its breath. Then her face darkened. "So be it," she said. "What happens next? You brought it on yourself." They turned and walked away, but their shadows lingered, like eyes that refused to close. That night, they placed a deadly charm at his doorstep. A curse so vile that if he stepped on it, his body would begin to rot from the feet up, slowly, painfully. They gathered beneath a crooked tree behind the compound. Their hands moved with eerie speed. Their mouths whispered words no child should hear. Their eyes glowed, red and dangerous. "He will not escape," the leader vowed. They mixed bone dust with snake oil, wrapped it in red cloth bound with black thread. They sang into it. Then they blew on the charm and sent it through the wind to his door. It landed silently, invisible to any normal eye, but its evil was real, deadly. Inside, Pastor Amos slept peacefully. His Bible rested on his chest, his breath steady, like a man wrapped in angels' arms. The night passed, and morning crept in gently like a mother waking her child. Pastor Amos rose, stretched, and smiled. That day, he planned to pray for a girl who had never seen light. He dressed, picked up his Bible, and walked toward the door. But just as his hand touched the handle, he paused. He blinked, looked around. "Ah," he said softly, "I forgot my chaplet." It was strange. He had never once forgotten it before. Not in all his years. But something stirred inside him, and without knowing why, he turned back to retrieve it. Outside, something waited. Watching. Breathing. The witches hid nearby. When they saw the door open, they smiled. He stepped out, one whispered. The charm has caught him. They waited. But minutes passed. No scream. No pain. No sound. Go check, the leader said to the boldest among them. Go and see his body. The bold one nodded and walked into the compound, her steps proud and slow. She reached the doorway and stepped forward. In that moment, pra! Her scream split the air like a blade. My leg! My body! Fire! She fell, writhing, convulsing, weeping. Her skin darkened. Her veins bulged. Her mouth opened wide, but no sound came. Then, stillness. Her body went quiet. She had stepped on the very charm they had laid for Pastor Amos. They hadn't known. He had turned back before stepping out. The two remaining witches in the bushes saw everything. Panic hit them like thunder. They ran, stumbling like rats fleeing fire. Inside, Pastor Amos picked up his chaplet and walked out quietly, peacefully, like a man who knew no fear. He saw the body. He didn't shout, didn't ask questions. He knelt beside her, whispered a short prayer, then rose. Without another word, he walked out of the compound and made his way to the home where a blind girl waited. That day, for the first time in her life, she saw the sun that day. The witches learned a truth they had long ignored. When light forgets nothing, even your own traps can turn against you. For 5 more days, Pastor Amos continued his work. His hands turned pain into healing. Wherever he walked, joy followed. Wounds vanished. Hope returned. The sound of drums echoed. Women sang his name. Children ran after him. The village became a living testimony. But far away in Ibadan, one heart was restless. Mama Akini had not known sleep. On the 6th night, she had a vision, clear as day. A bus, flipping over, fire swallowing it whole, and her son lying still inside. She woke up soaked in sweat. Her hands shook as she dialed his number. My son, she said, voice trembling, I beg you, leave that place. End it now. I saw you. I saw you dead. Please, don't try to prove anything. Just come home. He listened quietly. Mama, he replied gently, just one more day. I've made promises. God is with me. You always say that, she cried. But don't forget, he warns too. God protects, yes. But he also speaks, and when he does, you must listen. He helps those who help themselves. There was silence. I'll be careful, Mama, he finally said. That night, he prayed longer than usual. He remained on his knees until they ached. He read scripture after scripture. He whispered psalms until dawn. Sleep came, but only briefly. At sunrise, he wore white again and made his way to the village square. People had already gathered. They sat on mats, plastic chairs, wooden stools, anywhere they could find space. Some stood, some knelt. Hundreds came. Pastor Amos lifted his hands and prayed. He blessed them, one by one. He told them, your healing is complete. God has visited this land. When the service ended, they surrounded him. They clung to him like he was life itself. One woman sobbed, Don't forget us, Pastor. Another held his hand and said, You are our light. Please return. A small child hugged his leg and refused to let go. Pastor Amos smiled. His eyes were full, but not a single tear fell. If God allows, he said softly, I'll return. He turned and walked away as the people waved. The drums played. But destiny had already moved. The moment he decided to leave, the witches heard. And they began again, this time, not with curses of sickness, but with plans of death. Morning came quietly. Pastor Amos boarded a bus bound for Ibadan. He greeted the driver with a nod, offered a kind smile to the passengers, then took a seat by the window, just like before. His Bible rested in his hand. He stared outside, but his mind drifted far. The engine started. The bus shuddered. But before they could leave the station, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His heart dropped. He answered. The voice on the line was weak, broken. "Sir, I'm sorry. Your mother. She passed in her sleep last night." Time froze. His mouth didn't move. He just stared ahead. Then slowly he stood. He walked up to the driver. "Please stop at the next park. I need to get down." The driver nodded. At the next stop, Pastor Amos stepped off the bus. He didn't say a word. He didn't explain. He simply walked away and made new plans. Found another way home, quietly, alone. 2 hours later, that same bus, the one he left behind, was gone. Consumed by fire. Scattered in pieces. Screams had filled the air. The same road. The same curve. The same crash. This time, no one survived. News spread fast, like fire on dry leaves. In Umuzu people cried. The ones he healed wailed. Some ran into the forest shouting, "Why? Why?" But under their cursed tree, the witches danced. They laughed with cracked joy. They clapped their wrinkled hands. "We told him," they said. "We warned him. He's gone now." But they were wrong. Pastor Amos was not gone. He was home. On his knees. By his mother's side. Holding her cold, still hand. His tears did not fall loud, but they were deep. He wept in silence. "You warned me," he whispered. "And even in death, you still saved me. You stood in the way." He bent down and kissed her forehead. She had taken his place. The house was still, but the spirit inside was louder than 1,000 drums. Back in Umuzu, the healing slowed. The fire dimmed. But the story, it didn't fade. It traveled. Across towns. Across borders. On buses, in churches, in whispers and sermons. People told it again and again. How Pastor Amos walked into the heart of darkness. How death reached for him, but found someone else instead. And the witches, they too learned something they had never believed before. Some men are not alone. They are carried. They are shielded. Even when they don't listen. Someone still stands in front of the sword. If you were touched by this story, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, pass it along to friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African stories just like this. Thank you.